For joining us. We were having a discussion before going on air. Did you see the verdict coming?
Look, from a perception point of view, it's not an easy decision to take, given the fact that people had expectations, given the resources that we channeled towards ensuring Mr. Dewani comes to South Africa. But it's a difficult case to predict, because when prosecutors have evidence on paper and interview witnesses, it's a different case when those witnesses have to testify, be interrogated through cross-examination. There are two things that happen. One, you either come out as a star witness, like it happened in Oscar Pistorius, where Zach Modisa was a star witness, or you end up being bruised, like here was testifying about conditions in our prison. So in respect of this case, unfortunately, credibility and the evidence presented by the witnesses was bruised such that he had to be acquitted.
Now, what really went wrong? Because clearly there was as prosecutors, this is something that you foresee with your experience in court and having to deal with cases like these.
My explanation of it is that on paper, and when witnesses were interviewed, and when we even went to the United Kingdom as the central authority to deal with extradition, we convinced the UK authorities that we have evidence implicating Mr. Dewani. We brought him to South Africa. Little did we know that when the witnesses testify in court, they'll change statement, there'll be so material contradictions, and their evidence will be riddled with inconsistencies that the court will throw it out. And I must say that justice is defined as a fair evaluation, adjudication of issues by a competent court. It does not only mean that the person must be convicted, but when a person is acquitted based on a proper interpretation and application of the criminal principle, laws of criminal law, then we have to accept that.
Now, Advocate, looking at just the past couple of days with lobby groups and people calling for the judge to recuse herself, the reasons behind that, were they foreseeing where this was going, or was it just a strategy to deal with the fact that the NPA might not have had a strong case?
Reflecting on reports that had been made in the media, that's what informed the stance by those people, which is unprecedented. And unfortunately, Minister, though he has an oversight responsibility and Minister responsible for administration of justice, he is not empowered to intervene or interfere in criminal proceedings, because there's a principle which is enshrined in our constitution, which is the separation of powers and judicial independence. That's why he couldn't do anything you wrote to them. But I need to mention that it's important for people to understand that these are isolated cases, because only last week, NPA, law enforcement, and our justice system was applauded for ensuring that J. Arthur Brown is sitting for 15 years in jail. And the killer of the lesbian in the East Rand, Duduzile, is sitting in jail for 30 years. That's a well-oiled machine. But we need not be selective in judging how we do these cases. But we're saying there will be a reflection of all the negatively reported high-profile cases where we've been found wanting to say, how do we fine-tune the system so that it can be representative of the concerns of the people and be that which we seek to achieve?
Now, you just touched on the fact that you mentioned high-profile cases. I heard you earlier speaking of responding to questions about the rich getting away with crimes that they commit in South Africa. For instance, Oscar Pistorius, who's spending lenient time in prison, and now Dewani walking away and going back home without answering or stepping into the dock to respond to the murder charge. What does this really say about our justice system?
It says we have an independent judiciary that takes decisions not on emotions, not on what people expect, but on a proper interpretation of the law as they are required. There will be those cases that we will not win, or that the NPA will not successfully prosecute. But there will be those cases that they will successfully prosecute, like I indicated, the 30 years imprisonment and the 50 years of Arthur Brown. So I'm saying, at the end of the day, Minister, out of concern with all the negative reporting that dates back to the time even before he took office, he says, let's collate information on all these cases that we've been criticized on and see if there was an investigative capacity problem, there was prosecutorial capacity problem or inefficiency, there was the judiciary, erring there and there, so that we are able to say, all these concerns that people in South Africa are raising, let's see how best to deal with it. We will reflect on all those cases, fine-tune the system, identify weaknesses and shortfalls, and see from a law enforcement point of view, prosecutorial point of view, judiciary point of view, how do we get the system to work as a well-oiled machine. We concede that from a perception point of view, this is not an easy decision to take, having channeled so many resources towards bringing this man to South Africa.
Advocate Mhaga, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
And that was Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development.